All right, great. Good evening, everyone.
You ready to start?
Yep, we'll go ahead and start now. All right, who's up for some baseball, right? Obviously, baseball slow folks down. Thank you very much for your patience, by the way. I know we were supposed to start a little bit earlier. Obviously, Tigers, pretty popular team, pretty popular game, so that might have slowed some folks down. But good evening, everyone. Anyway, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Certainly feeling better now we have food in us and wonderful pizza. Welcome once again to D-NewTech 2015. Some of the highlights of some of the best startups in Detroit or the rest of the country. You get to see many of them right here tonight and listen to their pitches and hear about what they're all about and maybe even spring up some ideas that you might have yourself. It's also a great networking opportunity to meet some of the brightest, newest, youngest minds right here in Detroit and Southeast Michigan. That certainly the area has to offer, and the technology field in general, anywhere in the entire world has to offer. Starting off first, my name is Andrew Humphrey. I happen to do weather and news at WDIB in Detroit, Michigan. I do weather, feels like almost every day, but certainly every Saturday and Sunday, that's online, and a lot of times on weekdays also. But the news I do is also tech and science. All right, great. In the meantime, ask everyone to please go ahead and pull out your cell phones. If you don't mind, just go ahead and make sure it's on silent or vibrate. That's great. Don't turn it off because we want the rest of the world to know what's going on here, including by tweeting, Instagramming. If anyone has Periscope, feel free to Periscope also. We're also live streaming this on using Ustream, but also if you go to the D-NewTech website, there's the live stream that's happening right there. As soon as you get on the home page of it, feel free to tweet, Instagram, or Vine that out also, or Periscope it out also. So anyway, let's go ahead and get underway. Again, let's go ahead and give a round of applause to D-NewTech and also Tron, who hosts and organizes a lot of these events. Let's give him and his team a round of applause. And thank you very much to Techstars for hosting this. Let's give Techstars a round of applause. And some presenters get an idea of what their audience might be. How many of you, well, let's see, how many of you live in Detroit? Good. How many of you live outside of Detroit? How many of you are directly involved in the tech or science industry in some sort of way? Engineer, founder yourself, something like that. And those of you in the audience, how many of you actually have founded your own companies? Excellent. So to our presenters, you get an idea of what the audience is like. Let's hear first from our main speaker tonight. And speaking of Techstars and Techstars Mobility, is the managing director of Techstars Mobility. He and I actually many of you already know him, especially part of tech and science. All right, great. In the meantime, ask everyone to please go ahead and pull out your cell phones. If you don't mind, just go ahead and make sure it's on silent or vibrate. That's great. Don't turn it off because we want the rest of the world to know what's going on here, including by tweeting, Instagramming. If anyone has Periscope, feel free to Periscope also. We're also live streaming this on using Ustream, but also if you go to the D-NewTech website or due to his leadership. Applause to Ted Stravinsky.
Thank you guys all for coming to our office. Our office is very brand new. We're like on week 5 of living in this space, so we're still working out the kinks, but excited to have you guys all here. This is kind of maybe our first or second kind of public event where we're starting to open up more to the community, and we definitely plan to have more events ongoing. We're going to have more folks here. We have plenty of space. We have a keg, pizza, a car that's not drivable. All kinds of good stuff. So tonight, I'm just going to walk you guys through quickly what is Techstars, what is Techstars Mobility, and then let you guys hear from all of our companies real quick what they do and what they're focused on. So, starting off, so what is Techstars? So Techstars is a global ecosystem that helps entrepreneurs start and grow their business. And we really have the tools and the mechanisms to really help these people accelerate their businesses where they are in the world, no matter what stage of business they're working on. So we're also one of the leading startup accelerators in the world. We have a 90-day program that helps companies really accelerate their business. And we usually take about 10 to 12 companies per program, and we provide all kinds of guidance to help them accelerate their business, whether it's customer discovery, improving their product, fundraising, M&A, whatever it may be, to really help them drive their business forward. And today we have 18 programs around the world, Detroit being one of the newest of those programs. All this culminates at the end with a demo day, and our demo day is going to be largely open up to the community. So everyone here will be invited to that. We're expecting, I want to say,
We're also live streaming this on using Ustream, but also go to the D-NewTech.
so we have our company, 5-6 minutes what they've been working on, bring the community together, our corporate partners, and really kind of rally around building entrepreneurship and starting companies. When we look at the numbers for Techstars, it just works. So since 2007, 90% of our companies are still active. We have over 600 companies in our portfolio now, adding about 120 a year. 80% of those are still active, about 12% have been acquired, and the remaining have failed. And so we've really been able to invert the failure model, and a lot of that's due to mentors in the community and our support network that we've built to really help these companies understand their business, help build the right connections so they can be really successful in the long run. And just some more of these numbers are already out of date. This slide's already out of date. So we actually have close to 600 companies now. Those companies have gone on to raise $1.5 billion. And when you include the companies that have gone through an accelerator program, part of our venture portfolio, they're collectively valued at $50 billion to date. So we're adding about 120 new companies a year right now, and 10 of them you're going to hear from tonight. And we're very public with all our stats. So techstars.com/stats. Everything's up there, breaks down class, year, everything that companies have raised. We have a brand new website launching maybe tomorrow or within the next week that finally ties it all together because it's pretty out of date. And so what is Techstars mobility? What does this word mobility mean? How do we define it? So we took a pretty broad thesis to mobility. So mobility being any technologies that address the movement of people, goods, and services, and the ecosystems in which they move or move less. So it's a little bit of jargon, but it's really meant to be any technologies that addressing almost the movement of people and kind of the ecosystems around them. And so we wanted to be very broad on purpose, so we weren't limited in terms of the types of companies we looked at. And the areas that we looked at originally, and we're continuing to expand this, so connected vehicles, transportation, logistics, urban mobility startups. We looked at software companies, hardware companies, material science companies, consumer business models, B2B business models, really the whole gamut of startup companies in the mobility space. And one way we like to think of it is really anything from Uber to High Rubber is what we're looking at. And for this program, we've partnered with 7 amazing organizations that have really given us the edge in defining this program, attracting amazing companies, and at the same time really supporting these companies. So we launched the program with Ford, Verizon, and Magna back in December. And since then, we brought on Honda, Dana, Munich RE, McDonald's to that. And so we have folks that build cars, we have suppliers of these cars, we have service providers, and then we have companies that keep everyone well fed. And McDonald's stands out to a lot of people, why McDonald's want to be involved in mobility, startup play. When we talked to their chief digital officer, he told us they have 35,000 locations around the world, 70 million people every day go through a transportation company. When you look at autonomous vehicles and drones and people living in cities and not the suburbs, it greatly impacts. And he said we got to understand how people are thinking about the so we can ability affects not just the obvious car companies, but everyone involved. And so our vision is really we want to help create Detroit to be the mobility hub of the world. And so the startups you see tonight, they now understand Detroit, they're living in Detroit, working in Detroit, have a whole new perspective on Detroit. Some are even thinking about relocating here permanently. And over time, we want this to continue to grow and grow, that when you start thinking about the next Uber, they think about coming to Detroit first, which is going to the Valley. And so results so far, so when we launched in December, we've seen applications from every continent except Antarctica. and nothing with the Penguins yet, but maybe next year. We saw 42 countries represented, and we saw kind of 5 major themes. Those being, one big theme was around safety, so autonomous vehicles and technologies. We looked at technology originally, and we're continuing to expand this, so trucking and logistic type applications. We saw new types of car sharing and ride sharing modules, and material science companies, consumer battery, vehicle, really the whole gamut of. Oh, and the last one, I forgot. Maintenance was a big thing too. Just all the existing vehicles on the road. How do you maintain those and that stuff forward? And so, I guess we had hundreds and hundreds of applications all around the world. Amazing organizations that have really given us. We're going to kind of introduce each one. This program. So here's the 15 inaugural class.
Thanks again, everybody.
With Ford, Verizon, and Magna back in December. And since then, we brought on Honda, Dana, Munich, McDonald's to that. And so we have folks that build cars, we have suppliers of these cars, we have service providers, and then we have companies that like keep everyone well fed. And McDonald's stands out to a lot of people, like why McDonald's want to be involved in mobility, the startup play. When we talked to their chief digital officer, he told us they have 35,000 locations around the world. 70 million people every day go to work.
Getting started first with Wise Systems. And here to talk about that is Chaz Sims. He is the CEO and co-founder. Wise Systems. Oh, Chaz, hello. And what Wise System does is it provides real-time routing and analytics software to help on-demand delivery companies serve their customers more effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Sims.
Hi guys, not to disappoint too much, but I'm not Chaz.
Not Chaz.
Not Chaz. I'm Liz Shakley and I do work with Chaz. And as we were introduced, we are a decision-making platform for companies who deliver goods on demand. So to give you a use case, we're working with Anheuser-Busch right now, who are piloting for. In a given day in one of their distribution facilities, they might have 1,000 trucks that ultimately need to be scheduled to make these orders. Now, the parameters which the orders need to be made might be a time window for when the orders are expected to be received, geography based on where the orders are. What we do is take those parameters as well as things like weather, Tigers games for that matter, and other real-time factors that might complicate this process, put it into our engine and create the schedules for the drivers, making sure that the drivers hit their ETAs, customer service is high, utilization of vehicles is high, and fuel economy is at its best. So we do this through our engine and have this on-demand platform in which drivers know where to go when, so that the Anheuser-Busch's of the world at the end of the day are happy and more sustainable. So.
Come on back, because the way this is going to run is each presenter has roughly 3 to 5 minutes to go ahead and pitch or talk about what their venture is about. Maybe even less than 3 minutes, which is fine too.
Okay.
And then just take a few question and answers. Does anyone have any questions so far about what you've heard generally about this? Yes.
So basically, it's kind of like Garmin or Google Maps, but for fleet managers, right?
Yeah, something like that, but now we will take multiple kind of endpoints. For Google Maps, you might say you want to come to Ford Field. We'll take 1,000 of those and 60 drivers and across that be able to take off one order and add another as on-demand economy is growing. So the mapping part is quite common, and if you kind of think about Google Maps for all your errands today, 10 different things. How would it route and why? Would you go to Jamba Juice first or Ford Fields and why? Based on where you need to be when and traffic and those real-time parameters.
Is there a predictive component too?
Yes,
for the
there
future?
is. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I forgot to mention it myself. So we will also look at past historical data. Say that every time I order to you and you say 2 o'clock, you're never there. Then I'm probably going to stop sending things to you at 2 o'clock. That said, let's say there's nowhere for me to park my truck in front of where you are. Well, I'll make sure to factor that into as a result of this historical data. Let's say the day before Christmas your orders are crazy. I'll make sure to factor that in as well. So we do look at the historical data and make that into predictive decisions. Yeah.
Are you going to be subscription based or how do you mind?
Yeah, it's a SaaS. It's subscription based on a monthly level. And yeah.
What about privacy issues? You analyze the activity of individuals.
Yeah.
Is there any concerns about privacy?
There are a lot of concerns. So we met at the media lab at MIT where two of our guys were working in a privacy lab, a big data lab that focuses on privacy. So we're quite cognizant but also very aware. We also have a lawyer on our team who's always like, privacy, 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 don't get us sued. So it's something that we very much do think about and we're happy to entertain any longer conversations about it.
And lastly, are you able to take individual data and sort of also map out groups? Sort of get a sense of how groups behave as opposed to individuals?
Oh, yeah.
Combination of individuals?
Yeah. I would say that that will be the case. It's not the case yet because we don't have that type of data, but we certainly are interested in thinking on that level. And I would say that anybody with a cell phone, any app that's running in the background probably is thinking along those same lines because, you know, there's like digital kind of all dropped with this and it's the digital world. So you'll learn a lot of patterns, which is ultimately what we're much more interested in. Really quick background story before I jet, 'cause I think my 2 minutes are over. We actually became interested in this space. I'm originally Iraqi, and I was an architect once a long, long time ago, 2 years ago, and like a built environment architect. And I was working with UN Habitat developing buildings there, and things kept getting bombed. And it's like, something's not working here, right? And you realize when it comes to data and kind of developing the world at large, you can't really bomb data, but you can make decisions on how to build and develop places that really need it. And on that same note, it's very powerful here in the United States where I think, you know, goodness, we don't have those types of concerns. So I think it's a very powerful tool. We love it, and we do see the impact of it on a global level.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And lastly, it appears that WISE is an acronym. What does WISE stand for?
I didn't know it was an acronym.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it just looks cool.
Well, that does count for a lot. Image is important.
We'll make it all lowercase from now on. So change your books.
And your name once again?
I'm Leila Shakely.
Leila Shakely. Everyone, Miss Leila Shakely. All right, up next is the company ANSIC and Shiva Bhardwaj. That is you?
Yep.
All right, good. Got that one right. He's the CEO and co-founder, and what his company does is it makes automotive service safer, quicker, and more affordable for everyone. Everyone, Shiva.
How's it going, everyone? So, as was mentioned, my name is Shiva Bhardwaj, CEO of ANSIC Incorporated. At ANSIC, what we're doing is reinventing automotive service. So when you're driving down the road and you see that engine light pop up, you're usually concerned about what's going on. Am I safe? Where can I go to get this service? And how much is it going to cost me to fix that problem? So the platform we're building is called Techstars. And what we do is we utilize an OBD Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the dashboard of the vehicle. And through Bluetooth, we're scanning the engine for all its issues, and we're synchronizing this back to the cloud. We provide the vehicle owner with the ability to synchronize that data directly to their service center so they can do diagnostics before the car even enters the service shop. So this helps save time and money for both the vehicle owner, as you're driving down the road, you don't know what to do to help prevent a breakdown from occurring, as well as in the service shop so that they can begin to order parts and communicate to the customer before they even come in for scheduling appointments. What really makes this platform powerful is the fact that we're able to collect all this sensory information on the engine and do predictive analytics to try to tell you when your car is going to fail before it even happens. So that's really the power of our system. And so we use machine learning techniques to look at trends that lead to engine events and use all that information to do predictive analysis. So that's where we're looking at with this technology right now. We're looking to deploy with service centers and dealerships. To retain is a free option for the vehicle the system download.
Are you able to take individual data?
Provide this as an offer to
Groups? Everyone, Shiva, round of applause.
I would say that will be the case. It's not the case yet because we don't have that type of data.
What was my
Interested in thinking on that level, and I would say that anybody.
or are you separate?
predictive.
So you'll learn a lot of patterns, which is ultimately what we're
Definitely.
really quick background before I jet. 2 minutes see the impact of it on a level.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And lastly, if here's a why it's an acronym, what does that stand for?
Like an automated diagnostic report, so local service centers can give you a quote in real time. So there's things we're playing around with.
Does the vehicle itself have to be somehow compatible with your service?
Well, so every vehicle after 1996 has this OBD port plugged into it, and it's defined because of the emission standard. So this is like the pollution control. So in Michigan, you don't have to do it, but 37 other states in Canada, it's enforced to do emission tests. So every vehicle sold in North America has this port.
Did I see a question over here? Oh, one here, and then I saw one here. Yes.
Will your app allow the user to actually read the data coming from the canvas in the car, so actually I can see what it's telling the dealership was wrong?
Yeah, definitely. So the way it's set up is the front end dashboard is it's pretty clean in terms of it doesn't provide you too much information, but you can go further into clicking data because it gets quite complicated into what you're reading. For example, like the O2 sensor voltage, which means nothing to a lot of people. So, yeah, so we save that information for the people who can actually use it to do the diagnostic. But you do have the ability to at least view it.
Yes, sir.
What is the business model? What is the marketing strategy to convince all car buyers to have that same?
So right now we're looking at working, so our pilots are with dealerships and service centers, and the way we're setting it up is such that we provide them with the hardware modules, so they can plug into the vehicle owners' cars for free. And for the dealerships, what happens is, after the warranty period expires, 80% of those customers end up getting their car serviced from small independent service shops. And service is 44% of the business model, the revenue to these dealerships. So an incentive to them is customer retention is a huge factor for them. And so for their customers, it's really being able to help them save money and time on service down the road. So there's something as small as, if you don't change an O2 sensor on time, which is about $50, it'll lead to needing new fuel injectors, which is $500. And if you ignore that problem, it can lead to a new catalytic converter, which is $2,000. So being able to identify the fact that if you maintain things on time will save you money in the long run.
Is there a way to tap into the market of car owners who own cars that are older than 1996, or maybe a niche market like classic cars?
That's a good question. The problem is, before that, it was called the OBD1 standard. This is the OBD2 standard. And every single vehicle has a different physical connection port to those sensors. There's definitely an ability to plug into that, but there's a lot more work required in terms of the hardware. It's not standardized.
Yes, sir.
So, you said the dealers getting this information.
Sure.
Is there any way that your device or your system directly contacts the customer?
Oh yeah, so like it goes through the customer and it's up to the customer to push that information off to the dealership if they want that diagnostic.
What about, say, for something simple, like air cleaner, or maybe, I don't know, if there's
Regular maintenance?
checking oil or not,
Right.
things like that, so we'll let the customer know.
Of course.
There's something simple that you can service rather than taking it in.
Information comes to the customer first. If you're more technically inclined.
Charge the vehicle owners.
No. It'll be something you have to pay for, just information that already exists. We're just trying to provide that portal for the vehicle owner.
All right, Shiva Bar, oh, yes, one more? I didn't see. Sorry, the pillar, go ahead.
Focusing on the newer to the service centers, but is it expanded model to help out the independent garages or expand extra model to other verticals?
Yeah, so in the dealerships, they have 4 categories. We're focusing on the service side. If we can prove out the service with dealerships, the reason we're targeting them first is largely because retention is a huge issue within the service center, and they have a little bit deeper pockets to be experimenting with new technology. But once we prove out the value add that we're actually able to solve problems for a numerous amount of vehicles, we'll be able to expand out into the small service centers. Actually, my father owns a small service center in Toronto, Canada, and this has been my background since the age of 12 and working in the space. So I mean, of course, I would love to help out my father first, or people like him.
It seems like there would also be some value to fleet, big businesses that own
Right.
fleets of vehicles, just to understand how they can keep their maintenance costs as low as possible, because it's a huge portion of their overhead.
Right, definitely. So I think that's a huge point too. So like rental car companies and people that have large fleets that they own, and they want to make sure that it's well maintained over time. Definitely talking to a few companies, trying to explore and understand what they really care about on that debate.
Easier for you to get a volume of vehicles as opposed
Exactly.
to one-by-one customers.
Exactly.
Why the name OnSync? If I pronounce that correctly.
Yeah. So this name it's like a kind of physics term. It means fractal. The idea was that no matter what we invent and push to the market, the process is scalable no matter what it is that we're working on. And so that's kind of the idea. It's a very high level kind of concept, but that's how we started this company. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Next up, CDL Warrior. Jim Ruiz, are you here? CEO and founder. And CDL Warrior is a communications product to the trucking industry. Can truck drivers be in constant contact with each other and their managers?
But you can go further into clicking data because it gets quite complicated into what you're reading. For example, like the O2 sensor voltage, which means nothing to a lot of people.
Truck commercial in the United States.
Information for the people who can actually use it.
Why?
But you do have the ability to
Largest logistics company spent $500 million a year on truck freight, and I had no idea what truck freight. This was a problem for me because my customers were conditioned by Amazon, FedEx, and UPS, and simply did not understand when they buy a $25 book from Amazon, they know when it left and when it's arriving. But when they ship a $100,000 piece of equipment, I couldn't tell them where it was. But this is not just my problem, this is your problem. Logistics makes up 7% of GDP, trucking is the biggest portion of it. The cost of trucking services has gone up 3 to 4 times the inflation rate for the last 5 years. The primary reason for this is that drivers are not able to earn enough because they're not productive. So this was not satisfactory to me, so I had to figure out what we're going to do about it. And for the last 3 years I was at the company, every time I would go and talk to a driver, they had a smartphone. And so I kept on asking, why is it we can't solve this problem with smart devices that the drivers already own? And the answer I kept on getting was, well, they just don't know how to use it, they'll break it, it's just not possible. And the more I got into it and really understanding the existing fleet management telematics market, which is a market that's been around for 30 years. It's a $3 billion market, yet only 30% of professional drivers have these devices installed. And the reason is these are closed systems, they're costly for small fleets. Most importantly, these are not driver friendly. These are designed for fleets, they're designed to sell to large fleets, and large companies are not flexible. So what we're doing is we're taking this telematics market and we're turning it on its head. We are creating a driver-first fleet management system. And we are making smartphone apps that drivers actually want to use because they help the driver. And what they do is they help the driver in the most important thing to a commercial driver, time. If you're a commercial truck driver, you only have 70 hours in the US to work during a week. So time is money. Time is whether or not you get home to see your kids before they go to bed. And time is whether you earn enough to stay in the industry. CDL Warrior is focused on helping drivers save time, earn more, and be more productive. And what it's doing in the process is giving visibility, connectivity, and better control to the fleets and the shippers that use those drivers. That's us, and if you happen to know any fleets, we rolled out our fleet management product a week and a half ago, and our smartphone apps have been out for 4 months, and we have over 5,000 drivers throughout North America using it today, so happy to talk to anyone that is moving stuff or has connections to fleets, because we're onboarding it now. Thanks.
Did you roll it out as part of a test or an actual sale to a customer?
Initially started with a pilot, so we had 3 fleets on from the size of 2 to 1,600, and then we onboarded our first paying customer, so we'll be revenue in.
Being driver-based, will your technology or app, you said it's an app, right? All right, keep up drivers and lead accident. Sorry, it's the pillar.
We're really embedding very easy to use faces, and really the things that we're focused on are things that they're not necessarily would be doing while they're driving. Great question.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What sort of features do you have in the application?
So, yeah, it's a great question. So we're focused on time management for drivers, and before we did a line of code, we talked to 300 drivers, and we basically said, what's your biggest problem? And we heard over and over again was time. We said, well, how can we help you with that? And there's 3 things that stuck out. Number 1 is truck parking. So in North America, there's a shortage of truck parking in the interstate system. This is actually a really big problem for productivity for drivers, because at 8 o'clock at night, if you're driving, no matter how many hours you have left tonight that you can legally drive, you're finding a space right now because you don't know what's ahead in front of you and you don't know what's going to be there. So we're taking the first step of solving that by putting over 16,000 locations throughout North America that have verified truck parking. So not only truck stops, but it's also Walmarts, hotels with truck parking, truck washes, everything in there to get visibility. Second thing we're doing is we're helping them do their hours of service compliance and paper logbooks. So it turns out if you're an experienced driver and you know how to do it correctly, you can actually drive more hours legally than people that don't know how to do it. The other problem is if you're using paper logbooks, which 60% of the industry still does, you're 3 times more likely to have a violation. The problem is that the violations have nothing to do with safety. It's that the driver didn't fill it out right or the line wasn't current. By using our app, we solve both of those problems as soon as they start using the app. And the third thing we heard was a lot of times drivers were waiting for the trip information from their dispatchers. And so this didn't make a lot of sense of why the dispatcher, whose job is to give trip information to drivers, why it was taking so long. So we talked to the dispatchers. What we heard was they were most of the time on the phone explaining to newer drivers how much money they were making during the week, or explaining to them why their paycheck was different than they thought because they weren't doing a good job of managing their week, managing their time. So we built that into the app. So those are our 3 main features that are out there.
Do you access a lot of public information from the Department of Transportation as far as highway construction, number of rest stops, so on and so forth?
So not on the construction, and then it turns out that to do the rest stops and the truck stops is actually not public information, so we had to go to a lot of private or just different sources to work. But every single trucking company in the U.S. is regulated, and that information is public. So we were able to first able to see that fleets that had paper logbooks are 3 times more likely, and then we were able to data mine to figure out what were the specific violations, and that's what we solved.
Any other questions? Do you hope to expand to shipping by sea and air?
Nope.
Rail?
Nope. So CDL Warrior is all about the commercial truck driver, and we don't have to. It's a gigantic market. It's a $700 billion market, so we got plenty of room to
You
expand.
got your hands full there.
That's right.
All right, Jim Ruiz, everybody.
All right,
And a reminder once again, everybody, please stick around through all these presentations. At the very end, of course, all of them will be here if you have any further questions and network a little bit more. All right, who we have next is Peter Zawadzki.
That was good.
Ah, good. He is the CEO and co-founder of Classics and Exotics. And when I read about it, it sounds like zip cars for classic cars and exotics, but I think he'll be able to explain it a little bit more. In detail, he brings the sharing economy to the car enthusiast garage, allowing aficionados of classic cars and exotic cars being able to essentially rent out their cars to other enthusiasts. Yep. All right, here to explain a little bit more. Since I got it right, I'm not going to say it again. I'll put one on the head. Peter.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. So I want everybody to imagine next time they're on a trip, maybe next time they have a special event, an anniversary, a wedding, something along those lines, and you want to rent something special. You know, maybe a '69 Mustang, maybe a Ferrari Testarossa that you had, you know, a poster when you were a child on your walls. Here at Classics and Exotics, we want to help make that happen. At the same time, we want to help the vehicle owners. These cars have a lot of costs. Costs of storage, insurance, maintaining them, and it goes on and on and on. And with the average classic and exotic car owner owning 4.4 cars, That means there's a lot of money being spent on vehicles that aren't being used. And we want to help the enthusiast rent these cars. So through our platform, we give the ability to the owners of these vehicles to rent out their vehicles. We do all the screenings of the potential drivers. So we do background screenings, criminal, driving records. We do security deposits on each vehicle. We also do real-time driver analytics to make sure each vehicle is being treated the way it should be treated. We have a safe driver program. We charge a commission on each rental. And the ultimate goal for us is to be able to create, an online virtual garage of these car collections, to be able to grow and introduce the next generation of auto enthusiasts into classic and exotic car ownership. So that's our platform.
Peter, how do you handle insurance?
That's not fair. The logo's not on the wall yet. So we came up with this idea about a year ago. At the time, we worked with a large broker to find the right insurance carrier. We were able to work with one. At this time, we have 3 additional that have kind of jumped into the pool. So what we do is we provide $1 million of full liability for every single value for every single vehicle rented on our platform.
Has it been used yet?
It hasn't. We start renting
It has
actually
not?
the Woodward Dream Cruise.
You said has not?
Has not. We start
Oh.
renting. We've started signing up, and we are going to be executing our first rentals during the Woodward Dream Cruise. So if anybody's looking for anything interesting in the Woodward, come find me.
Cool. How many vehicles have you signed up?
We're at 50 now. We have another 25 to vet. We're signing up.
So,
I do home classic and exotic shows. So we actually have a lot of customers coming to us to find out more information. To be able to let this for every a lot of times we go out So we've teamed up with another startup based out of San Francisco called ZenDrive. So we do real-time analytics through our mobile app, but we're also working with a couple other hardware manufacturers to create a puck solution that can be hidden inside the vehicle by the owner, because obviously a lot of these vehicles aren't OBD2 compliant, so we need to find an alternative. So we're looking at teaming up with a hardware manufacturer to be able to do that. And what ends up happening is all that data that's collected, we don't care where you've been, we don't care exactly how fast you're going. That's not our business. You rented the car. What we do is all that information is spit out to ZenDrive. They create a safe driver score, and then using that safe driver score, we rate every single person. We discount each rental even after the fact. So if you rent a car and you are the greatest driver in the world, you save money without even knowing it.
So ZenDrive takes care of, as Kurt Martin said, the hardware issues of getting the devices compatible with all these devices.
Correct. So what they end up doing is we tie into, our mobile app ties into their platform, so we use all your GPS and your accelerometer on your phone to be able to calculate your speed, your stop speeds, so on and so forth, your acceleration.
So it has never shut down.
Correct. And if you try to sneak around our system and put your phone on the ground while you go rip down the highway, that's why we're looking at an alternative hardware solution that the owner can hide in the vehicle.
I was going to ask that next, because
We thought of that one.
even though you have insurance, I mean, these are still, who knows what the value of some of these vehicles would be, and they have a unique value. Someone might try to steal it anyway.
Correct.
Right here and then here.
Have you run into any enthusiasts that want to trade?
You know what? We haven't yet. It's actually come up in several of our mentor meetings that's something that we may want to start looking into, and that is the case. I'm not sure if, I'm assuming all of you guys are familiar with that one concourse that's getting built out in Pontiac. So we're looking at teaming up with a lot of those types of facilities that are really popping up all across the country. So if you're a vehicle owner, you may not be, and honestly, your odds are you're not going to be interested in renting out your vehicle. And that's absolutely fine. But now all of a sudden, are you interested in renting out your vehicle to somebody that maybe owns a garage bay, 5 or 6 garage bays down? So now it's no longer are you renting to a stranger, you're renting to somebody that you have, you know, some type of friendship with, or at least some type of relation with. So now it all of a sudden adds people onto our network. The other thing that we're doing to add people onto our network is we look at 3 different verticals. One is the traditional peer-to-peer model. The second is actually the arts and entertainment industry. So you may not be interested in renting out your car to another person, but would you be interested in renting it out to if there's a film in town, a magazine, or maybe there's a convention in town and a company needs something to spice up their booth to draw attention? And then the last one is the Uber model, and that's the gentleman who owns an old Rolls Royce, an old Bentley, and he just wants to drive somebody around in his car. You wouldn't think that there's a lot of those people, but there really are.
Right here and right here.
Now, what about the international market? Are you looking at that? And then also,
You guys just want me to grow.
yeah. And then
Canada's right
also,
across the-
what about international drivers who want to rent? How you go check on someone from China, India, and these other growing markets of which people are now being developed, Russians?
Yeah.
How you gonna check on those folks who may come over?
Honestly, we haven't even crossed that bridge with these insurance carriers. I think initially it's going to be closed off to U.S. drivers. We definitely want to expand overseas. The UK market is obviously a huge one for us because they're car culture and they're kind of the leaders in the sharing economy. The big joke internally in our company is before Techstars came along, it was, okay, well, where are we launching first, the U.S. or the UK? And then Techstars swooped in and made sure it was the U.S.
First off, I love your business concept. I am a car enthusiast. I am totally one of your early adopters. I will be one of your first vendors in Detroit.
Awesome.
And then
So
second
for all of
off,
you that think it's only men, it's not true.
there are
every,
car girls.
every customer that signed up today was actually a woman.
Second of all, that's great that you've got insurance coverage. I'm curious, have you come into any challenges with the car owners' insurance companies having a challenge? Like, no, even though you've got health coverage, we're not good.
We haven't actually. We've been fortunate enough. Like I said, the first phone call we made when we came up with the idea is, okay, is this insurable? Number 2, we need to find a large scale partner that's going to help us launch this, because without that, who's going to trust us? I wouldn't even trust us. I'm too classic. They were very receptive to it. We've spoken to a couple other insurers. American Modern is another one, and they're absolutely fine. We've just worked a back-end database that they have access to, so there's no fraud going on. So if somebody reports a claim, they're not trying to double dip on us and their carrier.
Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, just real quickly, what about the people that want to sell their cars? Would they be more, you have rent own?
They are. So we've kind of done the Airbnb model, and we started trolling Craigslist and started emailing people like, hey, you're selling your car. Are you interested in renting it out while it's up for sale? You know, earn some dollars while it's sitting there. We've had a good response on that. We've actually also approached a lot of dealerships that sell classic and exotic cars. Everything from Auto, which is not that far away, to a Ferrari dealership, and they all love our platform. They see it as a sales tool, because now when a customer's on the fence, they can be like, well, you know, you need this 67 Mustang like you need a hole in the head. But just in case you still want it, you can rent this out for $350, $400 a day in the area. You rent this out twice a month, you've offset all of your expenses, you've offset a loan if you took a loan out on this vehicle, and you can build out your collection. I'm using it for an excuse to buy my 3rd vehicle.
So when someone uses it, how much does the renter charge?
The renter has full control.
Okay.
We give them a ballpark based on the valuation of the vehicle, geographic area, as well as the make and model. But it's not my job to tell you how much your car is worth. It is completely up to you, because if you tell me your car to you is worth $500 a day, it's worth $500 a day. I'm not going to convince you otherwise. We give them a ballpark, but the owner sets the rate, they set the mileage, they set the weather conditions, down to what type of fuel goes in it.
And then how does revenue sharing work? What's their cut? What's your cut?
So we charge a 35% commission on every single rental, and then we charge a 10% as a rental fee, and that rental fee that gets charged to the owner slowly winds down as they become a safer driver and they rent more vehicles on the platform.
All right. Peter Zawatsky, everybody. And thank you for the impromptu proof of how D-NewTech works and these events work. You got a customer right here already signing up to some of these services just from hearing the pitch alone. All right, up next we got Cosmos Browser. Hunter Rosenblum is the CEO and co-founder. Internet via SMS, no data, no Wi-Fi required. Hunter, come on up. Everyone please give Hunter a round of applause.
Hey everyone. So we built Cosmos Browser to help connect the 2/3 of the world that still remains not connected. Despite what you may think, a technical issue. People just don't understand what they're paying for, and so they're not buying data. When you go into an AT&T store and you buy that, do you really know what you're buying? Do you know how long that lasts you? Do you know what it's worth? So understand. And this is more true for the low-income population. We need to bring transparency to data pricing. And I'm doing this by launching our own telco. It's not charged by the megabyte or gigabyte, but rather to charge by app or service. 25 cents a day for access to unlimited Facebook, rather than buying 1 gig of data for $50 upfront. We've just partnered with COTS, the Coalition of Temporary Shelter here in Detroit, to pilot our product with 20 low-income individuals in 2 weeks. So, yep, that's it. Thanks.
You said planning to do it, so what's your timeline?
So we want to do it in 2 weeks is when we want to start. So we're building product right now. We kind of had a little bit of a switch, as you heard. And we cut the deal yesterday, 2 days ago. So yeah.
Any techies in here who have specific questions about how this exactly works? Yes.
So you said instead of charging for data, you're going to charge for service. Net neutrality.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
So we're still basing it on megabytes, and gigabytes. We just don't do that up front. So let's say we see somebody using 50 megabytes of Facebook every single day. We'll charge them for unlimited Facebook at the price of 65 megabytes, trying to gamble essentially that they'll keep it on there. So it's not really about the services. The pricing is still based on how much you use them, how much data you use.
I still don't get exactly what that means in real dollars. I understand I know what megabytes are.
Yeah.
Of course, I know what Facebook is.
Yeah.
Is there a way you can translate that and break it down into how many cents or dollars per day for an average user who wants to go online from their phone?
What do you? What's exactly the question?
I'm having trouble understanding what the translation is for the average Joe and Jane Smith.
So they open up a Facebook app instead of having to pay for a gigabyte, $30 up front prepaid. They open up the Facebook app and it says, all right, you've been using it this amount every single day. Why don't you pay for Facebook for today for 60 cents or whatever it may be?
Okay, gotcha. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand how it works. I have a smartphone, and do I buy my service through you? Do I still go to Verizon?
It's through us. So if you know what a MVNO
So I
is.
come and buy my hardware, or I buy hardware, and come and subscribe to Cosmos.
Yeah, so if you know what an MVNO is, like Boost Mobile or Cricket Wireless, they're usually target low-income populations, right? So what they do is they sell SIM cards usually. It's just the device itself, and you can go bring your own device, you put in the SIM card. You're buying service from Cricket or Boost Mobile, but actually those carriers don't own their own towers. They're existing on other services. So if we were to partner with, say, AT&T, you'd get AT&T service, but you'd be paying through us.
Yeah, go ahead.
How are you planning to acquire customers?
So right now we're planning on doing exactly what we did with COTS. Basically go and cut a deal with them and try to provide a free phone and free service in the beginning for low-income populations, and then have them pay over time. So the good example would be I couldn't go out and buy an Xbox right now for $300, but I could go get an Xbox for free and pay $1 every time I play until I pay it off. So that's sort of the model that we're going after. So we'll go into homeless shelters, low-income transitional housing operators, and basically say we can provide your the people that are living with you for really, really cheap phone service.
But are you running into the problem of the digital divide? Does your customer base, and now I'm getting it more, it seems like you're targeting consumers who, as you said, are low income and then maybe eventually the developing world. Many of those folks might not even have a device to start off with.
Yeah.
So are you hitting that obstacle? And if so, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, we can pilot. We're only paying per phone. So if we can do it for free, cheap, we can do it for free. Eventually, they'll be paid back over time.
Okay.
So we're used to postpaid mostly in this market. Low income is used to prepaid. There's still people that go in once a month into Cricket and give money so that they can have data for the month, and then they run out and they have to go buy more.
Or buying a track phone, another example of prepaid?
Track phone.
Disposable cell phone.
Yeah, same thing, prepaid. In the developing world, like for example, in the Philippines, 96% of phones are prepaid. People are used to that, and that's what we are, just pay as you go. So you fill up your account.
It's basically per day, it's like microtransactions?
Yes, microtransactions.
Okay, so it's all handled like through the app on your
Yes,
phone?
yes,
kind of thing?
exactly.
All right, so now, example would be, like, what would your example bill be? Like, for someone who doesn't use it much, but just wants to be connected?
So I would say probably I need 25 cents a day from with access to Facebook. You can make pretty good margins on that. 25 cents a day for any app. That's cheap. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What? So that's a super interesting dilemma. So in the U.S., actually, a lot of the low-income folks are banked. They just don't have a lot in that bank. So we can use debit and maybe not credit, but usually debit. As for in the developing world, it's a little bit different. There's a lot of different mobile payment systems. You have to go to the bodega and pay money to the bodega store owner and fill up your card. It's similar. So what we're going to be doing with COTS is, or we're still working it out, but it's looking like I'm basically going to go there every day in the morning and pick up cash and then refill people's accounts. It'll be nice. We get to build a really good relationship with those people and understand what they like.
But in the U.S., when you say bank, you mean traditionally bank? You mean they have bank accounts?
Yeah, a lot of people do have bank accounts. Yeah, a large
Okay.
population.
All right.
I see the core of who you described earlier are people who are not.
Yeah.
So that's the issue, that's the question, that's the reason.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a debt collector,
Yeah.
and he has that same exact problem, so
Yeah.
this is what every month we have to charge.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes.
Do you plan on expanding this to tablets?
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter what type of device it is. If the device can take a SIM card, we can offer the service.
Now, are you going to offer any discounts for education, say, because you're saying you're trying to get lower income in third world countries? What if they want to access like Khan Academy site and watch a lot of videos, which is going to eat up some bandwidth? So are you going to give them a discount if they're doing that type of usage on the phone, or are they going to still get hit with
Yeah.
standard rate?
I mean, the standard rate's really low, right? Like 25 cents for unlimited access to a service. If it's Khan Academy, that's 25 cents to learn a lot for the day. In terms of getting discounts, we probably have to go to the content provider to have them pay for it. So for example, Facebook in the developing world, what they do now is they'll pay for people's data use so that people can access Facebook because they know they'll make it back in ad revenue. So something along those lines.
Yes, sir.
What's to stop somebody who's, who could afford higher service and using this service to get cheaper applications?
Sorry, what was that?
What's to stop somebody who can afford, regular plan to using this, so far using this service to just get cheaper use of their applications?
It could. There's no problem with that. If somebody only uses Facebook and email, why shouldn't they use our service? I don't think that the standard carriers here in America will actually lose their customer base, though. People really love their unlimited internet. Ask anybody who's on my grandfathered plan. Yeah, and if they aren't on that plan, usually they are paying It really just depends on the use case.
Is there a security concern? Individuals or groups who want to use the technology, the prepaid technology, for nefarious purposes, whether it be fraud, whether it be violence, whether it be terrorism, something like that. Because maybe of the anonymous nature of prepaid systems.
Or with drugs, right? You can't ask
Security
from the carriers. Connection from that individual device. It doesn't matter what they do. They can't fake. They can't fake access for money.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody else? All right, short presentation, but a good discussion. Thank you very much. Dr. Rosenberg. All right, next up is Elegos Technologies. Did I pronounce that right, John?
Yeah, you're good.
Good. John Hennessy is the CEO and co-founder. It's a spin-off from the University of Michigan, go blue. He's commercializing battery separator technology that can enable safer, longer-lasting batteries. John, everybody.
You did it for me. So, all right. So I'm with Elegos Technologies. When Ted goes through the examples of the companies, it's software, apps, and because they're a battery company, so that's us. So batteries are everywhere, right? They're in your laptops, smartphones. We focus on a special kind of battery, the lithium-ion, again, in all your laptops, all your smartphones. And we're going to tie those also are trying to coincide with electric vehicles, of course. But there's still some issues with these batteries. Issues with safety, issues. Ring called yarn, and then we just dissolve that and we make a film from it.
Are you vulnerable to any sort of changes in these sort of commodities markets or no?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Yep. Oh, I thought you had a question. Yes.
Now, since you're changing the separator, how does it change the chemistry of the battery and the charging and discharge rate? Does it improve anything?
Yeah, it improves the charging and discharge rate. It's still amenable to all the kinds of chemistries that the batteries are already part of, so the same electrochemistry will be have with ours.
And does it help with overcharging problem? If you overcharge these batteries, they burst into flames. Does it help reduce that?
Yeah, because it's not made of plastic, it's made of Kevlar. It has a lot better safety features. So when you overcharge it or go to high discharge rate, again, these are kind of technical terms, but If you kind of demand more from the battery that it can hold at the time, it's going to have a lot better safety profile, so it's not going to, you know, explode or increase like that. So those don't really happen that often anyway. I think the news kind of populates like, you know, these cars catch on fire. It's a lot less frequent than like gasoline-powered cars anyway. So a lot of these cases are quite extreme that we're talking about.
But there are real-world concerns when it comes to actual transportation of batteries in the air, where transportation officials crack down on whether or not you're carrying lithium-ion batteries, you said?
Yep.
Actually in air travel.
Yes.
Does your technology eliminate that?
I'm not going to claim that it can eliminate all of that. There's a lot of factors that go into play with the battery, but you know, there's a lot of research around parts of the battery that can contribute a lot to the safety, and the separator tends to be mentioned a lot. So if we can eliminate the risk with the separator, we can eliminate a lot of the risk overall.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, sure.
So the Kevlar acts as a separator and also a heat sink. Is that the
A heat sink?
Yes. Is that the idea that it's going to absorb whatever heat is emitted from?
It does a better job of absorbing it. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a heat sink. It takes a lot to kind of explode the battery. It's usually the liquid inside of it that explodes. It does a better job of kind of preventing that from happening. So I haven't heard it called a heat sink in the industry, but it does prevent against.
So I was just trying to figure out what kind of percentage of lower. I was trying to put a number to it so that you can say, okay, it's this amount, this percentage amount of better, better than the previous material. Right. I'm just trying to get my head around how to compare your product to the existing.
Right. So an easy one to do is because it's very hard to quantify safety. We kind of stay away from that. Compared to like a plastic, you know, we can make ours really thin, and because it's so strong, it's going to survive a lot of those environments. Because ours is so thin, we can put a lot more inside of the battery, and that's what makes it last a lot longer.
What's your end game?
The end game is to sell this to battery manufacturers who will then kind of put inside of a lot of applications that want to have these batteries. So electric vehicles, for example, is kind of how we tie ourselves to mobility.
Do you have anything patented with this at all?
Yeah, so this, you know, like was introduced, it's come from the University of Michigan. So we have 2 patent pending applications right now. It's been research that you have done for over 5 years. And so the patent application office is pretty backed up with a lot of applications, but because we have a pretty good foothold with the IP space, we're the only people out there that can make this in nanofiber form. We see ourselves getting the patents eventually.
So is that you and the university holding the patent?
The university owns the patents, we license it from them.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, you had his hand up long.
So are there any characteristics of the battery that go down because of this technology, or is it only?
Sure, that's a good question. So because you might think, oh, Kevlar is more expensive than plastic, right? Like, shoot above the battery. But because we're not making the whole battery, we're just making this part kind of net cost. And for some applications, we're not going to want to pay a premium on it. And our
Excited about where we see the biggest opportunity
So,
industry-wide?
yeah, biggest opportunity is definitely electric vehicles. That's kind of how we got into this. But you might, as you can guess, it's a long development pathway, and so we hope to get some kind of early validation with some smaller markets first. Early validation, early adoption, and then as we're working with electric vehicles, because it takes so long to get it inside of the batteries and inside the cars, it'll eventually adopt itself in that big market. Because it's the biggest and fastest growing market for anything we're looking at right now.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that battery manufacturer puts on that battery to let me know that your product's in there?
Good question. No, you have to do your research on it. So you might, you know, be buying applications. You know, you're the end user. You might be buying applications that can market and say, oh, you know, it lasts a lot longer. Like an iPhone lasts a lot longer. It's thinner. you might not know that, oh, you know, what's the battery inside of it? Well, it's a Samsung battery. What's the separator inside of it? I don't know right now, but you can find out by doing the research. You're not going to know exactly, oh, it's this much thinner or whatever, but you will see that your application can last longer, stuff like that.
Bulletproof battery is a bit of a stretch.
Bulletproof batteries is a bit of a stretch, yes.
I mean,
Sure,
it
follow-up.
would be nice if there was somebody that you could, you know, when you're selling that product, if you could somehow have like your.
Trademark symbol.
What'd you say, sir?
That'd be part of the advertising.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Intel inside, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
First question, have you talked to Elon Musk since he's trying to do big batteries for the home use?
No, I have not pulled my Elon card yet.
It's right there in his Rolodex.
Yeah.
And
I'll wait
also-
for the right time for that.
The future R&D, you're looking at graphene that may replace the Kevlar?
Not looking into that right now. So, but thanks for the idea.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Just that, so this is an incremental improvement, nothing too revolutionary, it's just like a slightly better component.
I wouldn't say that. I would say for certain applications it does move the ticker quite significantly. If you can cut down the thickness by 10x, which for some applications is possible, that's a game changer for some applications. For some batteries that can become flexible.
More than just incremental.
Right.
All right, John Hennessy, everybody. Next up, we have GearBreak, and Chris Bailey is the CEO and co-founder. The sound of a smart brake light to me, when you're slowing down, almost activate your brake light to prevent collisions. So it's all about traffic safety. Everyone, Chris Bailey.
So my name is Chris Bailey. As he said, I'm the CEO of GearBreak. And did you know that motorcyclists are 3 times more likely to die in an accident than motorists? It's a pretty shocking statistic. Real quick story, when I was 21 years old, I went out and bought my first motorcycle. And I couldn't wait to tell everyone I could about it, except for my parents. Because I knew as soon as I told them, they were just going to yell at me about motorcycle safety. And sure enough, when I did, they said, Chris, you're going to kill yourself. And I said, no, Mom, Dad, it's okay. I'm going to be safe. And they said, it doesn't matter. There's only 2 types of motorcycle riders, those that have wrecked and those that are going to wreck. I didn't believe them at the time, but 2 years later, I was out riding, being safe, and another driver didn't see me and caused me to wreck the bike. It wasn't my fault, someone didn't see me. So that kind of got me and my team thinking about motorcycle visibility and what we could do to improve that. So for our first product, we identified a core problem, and that is that motorcycles and manual transmissions in general can slow down very, very effectively without the use of the brakes, and thus without the use of the brake lights. So they can downshift, and they can engine brake, and then in the new electric motorcycles, they can use regenerative braking. And all of these methods are extremely effective at slowing the vehicle down, bringing it to a near complete stop. But the fatal flaw is that it does not light the brake lights at all to warn following drivers. So we couple that with a statistic we found from NHTSA that showed that with just an extra 1 second of warning time to following drivers, up to 90% of rear-end collisions could be avoided, which was really, really powerful. So we went out and we built a technology that's patent pending. It detects any time the vehicle slows down for any reason whatsoever, and automatically lights the brake lights to warn the extra 1 second of warning time and prevent up to 90% of the small device right into the connector. About telematics and automobiles, but you've probably never heard about any sort of telematics and motorcycles. And that's because we heard ANSIC talk about this a little bit earlier. In automobiles, they have a standard port that they can plug a device in. So it's very easy to make one device that plugs into all cars after 1996. In motorcycles, the designers decide, let's change the connector again here in 2 years. Let's switch the wiring configuration up. But what we've done and what we can continue to do is work with our customers to build harnesses for all of their motorcycles to be able to plug a universal telematics device into a motorcycle, to be able to provide crash alerts, theft detection, riding analytics, and predictive maintenance issues to them. That's who we are. I'd love to talk to you more about it. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer those as well. So it works in a variety of different vehicles. I have one in my car. We have some installed in electric vehicles. And we think there may be some market for heavy trucks. However, we really wanted to focus and dominate one specific market. And we found that motorcyclists are much more willing to modify their vehicle and upgrade features than the average car enthusiast is.
It sounds like much of this is all aftermarket, after someone has bought their vehicle, whether it's a motorcycle or something. Anything manufacturing process itself, with any auto manufacturers?
Sure. So we're definitely working with manufacturers. We've got a couple targeted now. They're interested. We just really need to build that really solid case, and if this makes sense for them, because ultimately it comes down to cost. We need to do it at a cost.
Well, we do that.
Most motorcycle manufacturers make the device themselves. We would sell to them. Once we get up to very big size, Honda or some vacuum manufacturers, they probably would want to license it, or we would license it to their tier 1 supplier. But those are all great options for us on the table.
Yes, sir.
How does this device detect that you're deceleration?
Great question. So it's an accelerometer and a gyroscope package all in one, so we get very accurate. It's an accelerometer and a gyroscope. So it's the exact same thing in your phone that detects when you turned it, and when you shake it, so it lets you play the fun games. It just detects the forces of momentum of you slowing down, and then automatically lets the brake. It's roughly equal to braking.
So if it was just the accelerometer, you'd be able to tell if you're just going downhill versus braking.
Yeah, it just lets us get a much more granular detail of predicting exactly when that is, and allows us to use an algorithm to filter out road noise and bumps and potholes and all of that junk, and really focus on only when the vehicle's slowing down.
So it kind of learns along the way?
No, we had to do that learning and build it into the package. Yeah, there's no, we just did that through a lot of testing and road testing.
What I was wondering was if it learns from use. For example, here in Southeast Michigan, it's not very hilly, but in some place like San Francisco where you're going uphill a lot, whether or not the sensor knows that somehow through repetitive use, so it's able to filter out, oh, this person's actually driving uphill instead of slowing down because of emergency.
Yeah, we could definitely build some machine learning into it at some point. It's very interesting.
Yes, sir.
Does this mean that a motorcycle with your device plugged in, their brake lights at night, like this, just keep flickering on and off all the time as the car accelerates and decelerates? I imagine surely distracting, but it's better than somebody. Sure.
That's great feedback. What we did is we got it tuned to anything roughly equal to braking. So NHTSA says that your brake light should be on around 0.3 to 0.4 Gs. So that's what we look for. We don't look for just coasting. So that's why we don't work very well in automatic transmission vehicles. But in manual transmissions, you get those instances a whole lot where you're doing heavy deceleration without braking. So it's that 0.3 to 0.4 G range that is roughly equal to braking that we have to tune to.
So you can adjust the physics and you can circle those situations.
Are you saying that your device works better in manual vehicles than automatic?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more features that we can provide. There's a lot more instances of slowing without braking in manual transmissions than there is in automatic transmissions.
But have you analyzed your customer base? How many folks use manual transmissions versus automatic transmissions? And
So back to, that's the reason, one of the big reasons we focused on the motorcycles.
Okay.
Is that they're all almost entirely manual transmission. Now they're going to electric vehicles is a big one, and there's several major electric motorcycle manufacturers out there. And we have a huge benefit there too, because regenerative braking is a big issue in vehicles as well. As it recharges the batteries through the motor, it slows you down very quickly.
Yep.
Part of the marketing of this thing is probably going to get better insurance rates with, goes quick with development.
Yeah. We're actually
engine and the transmission are not only designed to speed the vehicle up, but slow the vehicle down. And their legal counsel said, yeah, we do agree with that. So we got kind of a check mark from them on that.
Are you at all concerned about liability on your end? I mean, this appears to still be an aftermarket device. And obviously accidents are very serious when people get injured or killed. But if an insurance company or a lawyer sees that, oh, this accident has happened, but is there something with the braking system, and then they discover the driver actually did something to their car or vehicle after they bought it, and oh, that's it. Does that mean you're liable or on the hook in any sort of way?
Sure. So first off, we use all solid-state electronics. We pot them. We do 100% testing. We do everything we possibly can to make these as absolutely safe as possible. And the next thing is there is some liability that just can't be avoided. In the same way that a brake bulb manufacturer may have some potential liability, they need to manage that. That's why we manage it. We make high-quality products and we have great insurance to back us.
Okay, Chris Bailey, everybody. Thank you. Next up, Motoroso. Alex Littlewood is the CEO and founder, and this is about combining content, community, and this is another thing about automotive or car enthusiasts, basically connecting them together and making them more of a community. Everyone, Alex Littlewood.
Everybody, I'm Alex, founder and CEO of Motoroso, and I may be preaching to the choir here in Detroit, but I love cars and motorcycles. This passion runs deep for me. I've been a gearhead my whole life, and I have spent, frankly, an irresponsible amount of my money on cars and motorcycles. And if this resonates with you, then you might be one of the 40 million Americans that have made automotive and power sports a lifestyle. And so let's see if this sounds familiar. You've seen a photograph of a car with a really nice set of wheels, or you watch a YouTube video and the sound of the exhaust, got your heart pumping a little bit, and you want that. But you have no idea what the products are. We spend $300 billion in the aftermarket, and in the year 2015, we have to go through hell to find products. You search the web, you scour forums, you browse eBay, you search thousands of websites, and to no avail. At Motoroso, we've built a new platform that helps enthusiasts find inspiration and ideas for their car and motorcycle builds by browsing tens of thousands of images. And when they see a part or accessory that they like, they can click directly on the image to find out what that part is, how much it costs, and where to buy it. Our content comes from brands and users alike from the entire community. We launched last September, and we're serving over 100,000 monthly page views currently, and we've got over 220 brands like Chevrolet and Ducati leveraging the platform to create interactive content and drive traffic and sales. We've got a huge vision to try and connect the whole enthusiast community into a single platform to find the content that inspires them, the community that engages them, and the products that power their lifestyle. So please visit Motoroso.com and find what drives them.
So how does your company make money?
How does it make money? So in the future, there'll be three major monetization strategies. The first is a product marketplace. When they find that product right within the image, we'll be able to help them actually purchase that product in our own cart. That'll be a marketplace, kind of like eBay, with multiple sellers. We'll never touch the product. We just process the transaction, send the order. It's a very obvious one. The advertising play is also really clear because we'll have so much data about what people park, what they follow, what they like, what they comment on, what they share, and we'll get a really good idea of what their passions are. We'll be able to push relevant messaging and content to them through the platform, funded obviously by the speakers in the advertising world. They're not in to scale. Service provider listing for that segment to help them get the right leads.
How do you moderate and police your audience?
Communities often police themselves, but we do look for explicit content and images. We have a report as inappropriate function. We have not had to delete a lot of content yet, We have about 25,000 monthly unique visitors to the site, so we're pleased with the percentage of bad content we're seeing. We do expect that to scale. This is the automotive space. There are going to be trolls, and we'll just do that through a community manager.
Is there a rating system also for your users?
There's not a peer-to-peer rating system currently. We like that idea. We haven't implemented it. There's definitely going to be a seller rating system and a service provider rating system so that the community can say when they've purchased products or when they've hired a professional, they can make sure that they're giving a review on those users.
Anybody?
Do you plan to link up with like Amazon or Alibaba?
So we're planning to actually build our own marketplace. So we want the sellers that sell on Amazon and sell on eBay to list their parts and accessories for sale on Motoroso. We actually plan to undercut the commission that those marketplaces take in early days to obviously make it competitive and interesting. We also really want to address one of the big problems that exists in the automotive aftermarket. That is, for the manufacturers of aftermarket parts and accessories on marketplaces like eBay and Amazon, they've lost control of their brand messaging, they've lost control of their pricing strategy, they've lost control of their fitment data. The brands, the manufacturers make this stuff and they know how they want it to be sold and how it fits. And the marketplaces like eBay and Amazon ingest spreadsheets from sellers, whether they're Summit, which is $1 billion retailer, or some guy selling stuff in his garage. They mess up. What's that? Right, and then they compete with them. and if they mess up one line in their spreadsheet, all of a sudden that product doesn't fit properly. And so you buy a part on eBay or Amazon, and it comes and it doesn't fit, who do you blame? Immediately you blame the manufacturer thinking that they messed up and didn't make the right part, but the reality is that they did it. And so we're going to give the control of messaging and product data back to the brands, and then just take an easier, smaller fee from the sellers and manage the whole transaction that way.
So how are you going to invade the China market then?
It's a good question. There actually is a very, very large organization called AAITF, which is essentially China's SEMA. We have been in touch with them. They're very interested in what we're doing. When we think about China expansion, I think that market's going to be tremendously interesting. China has a massive shift in culture to personal expression, and I think that will manifest itself through vehicles the way it has in every culture around the world. How we do that, I honestly have not thought about it yet.
Do you have your own inventory, repository, digital inventory of the parts that are highlighted on most Motoroso?
That's going to be a big step for us. Currently, the users are populating those into the platform now, so it's beginning, but we're actually...
Users are putting that in.
They are.
Manufacturers.
Yeah. Both are using them. They both have this set of tools. Of products, we actually have videos, articles, and how-tos layered right within the image as well, which is pretty handy.
Is this an app also?
It is not an app yet, and there is a mobile.
Okay.
The desktop experience is much better. It's about 70% of our traffic right now, so we're planning to work on the mobile experience, but we're not
Any
sure.
time on when the app will be coming out?
I came to the company. I spent 4 years in brand strategy consulting. So if I could get that. The logo is an evolution of the first logo that I had designed literally on like 99 designs, $99 logos. It was awful, but his name's Adam. If you need a logo design, let me know. He's,
Did you trademark it?
yes.
All right, that was convincing.
Trademarking is a very complex issue.
All right. Alex Littlewood, everybody. Next up, My Dealer Service. John Rossi is here. He is the CEO and co-founder. My Dealer Service is about empowering automotive service departments with digital connectivity and workflow management, elevating efficiency, and creating an unprecedented customer
Two.
did something amazing in 2008. They created what's called the Domino's Pizza Tracker. They created to watch the status of that no one else at the time in the industry had done. So My Dealer Service took that same kind of concept and said, if you can track your $15 pizza, why can't you track the second most important thing you own as a consumer, your vehicle? So My Dealer Service built a web-based application that allows the point of contact in which you drop your vehicle off, they check your vehicle in. We've given them a mobile-friendly solution that allows them to walk away from their desk, go back and talk to the technician at the point of repair, send an update to the consumer via an email message or text message. They can also take pictures of a suggested part replacement or make notes about a suggested service upsell. As a consumer, real time, they've allowed me transparency in the repair of my vehicle, and most importantly, as a consumer, I'm fully engaged and I'm a happy customer. Now, what does a happy consumer mean to the dealership? It means a repeat customer. And what does a repeat customer mean to the dealership? It means more money to the bottom line. So, again, I ask you, why are we in business? To make dealerships money, and two, to make dealerships more money. I'm John Rossi, founder of My Dealer Service. Thank you.
In addition to dealers, are you also helping out oil change facilities, tire shops, places like that too?
Absolutely, yep. So currently, to date, we have a Honda store and a Toyota store as pilot users. We also have a GM store, don't tell Ford, but we have a GM store that's a paying customer. So we have validated this, and the response has been good. So we see our markets as independent repair facilities, dealerships, and collision centers.
Well, you can tell. Maybe that's what I want to get.
Absolutely.
All right. Ready?
What's your
Alexander Graham Bell invented it. It served one purpose, to relay information back and forth, right? But now you get into these situations where your car is up on the lift, you have brakes that need to be repaired, and a rotor that needs to be resurfaced. As a consumer, do you trust that your rotors do need to be resurfaced? Wouldn't you feel a little bit better if they showed you visual evidence of your rotor's condition? Something that you could also approve the work to be done while you're in a meeting or presenting, or maybe you're at the doctor's with your young children, that you could simply reply back yes and approve it on your smartphone.
So it basically gives you more confidence that these things that pop up that a service provider says you also need to do are actual issues. I mean, I probably wouldn't even know. You can show me a picture, I have no idea. But
Sure.
it just gives you more confidence to say, okay, well, these guys are being honest.
Phone calls that go into the dealership get routed directly to the service department. So you can imagine what their day is like nonstop, leaving phone messages, phone calls.
Distraction for mechanics to have to somehow check in now so that this app gets, or your website gets updated so that the stages of their repair.
So we've done our validation. It's a complement to what they're currently doing, which is when the consumer calls, they have to put the phone on hold, go back and talk to the technician, come back and update the consumer. So we feel that by taking their smartphone or their tablet back to the point of repair, they're able to get that customer real-time update before that customer gets a chance to even call into the dealership.
Now, what have you gotten, what I'm asking is, have you gotten feedback from the dealers that use this, mechanics that use it? Is it user-friendly for them, or do they view it as another distraction?
It's very intuitive. So mechanics turn the wrench in the car. They don't update the consumers. It's the people in the service that it's times a year. So you're probably not going to be downloading that app to only use 3 or 4 times a year. As consumers, we just feel that takes up space for, Candy Crush and other types of apps that we use more frequently.
Okay.
Like for example, like Google Glass. Like what if your dealer can glass structure and blink to take a picture rather than just like loading, sending, and if they're working on one specific job, they can have it programmed and logged and like blink and then have the picture uploaded and maybe even verbally just do it or like with voice text.
Yes, so the question is, would we consider doing wearables or something like Google Glasses? I don't know as if we would go that deep into kind of the repair industry or just the nature of repairing the car. Our first kind of attack into what's called the fixed operations department is to build a better customer experience, which we think we're solving that pain point right off the bat. But we are going to start looking into other departments on how we can help the dealership have faster jobs going through from customers, parts that are ordered accurately, put on the car. Absolutely. So that's something that once we get further down the road, we can definitely take a look at. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can almost see like they'd hire a liaison or something. If they got 14 bays and all are full, mechanics just want to be mechanics. And that gets also kind of lackey. He goes from car to car saying, hey, relate this to the customer, need to break these rotors, the shocks are bad, blah, 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 blah. And then the liaison communicates that to the customer and then goes to the next car and does it again, just keeps doing that.
You're absolutely correct, because when that car is up on the lift and it's not being worked on, that dealership is losing money. It's no longer efficient for that technician. So trying to provide metrics like how are efficient are the mechanics at the job. Absolutely.
See everybody. Thank you. All right, and last but not least, we now have splitting fares. Anya Babbitt is the CEO and co-founder. This is a social ride-sharing app designed to think of sharing a cab, splitting fares, but maybe an easier way to do it. Everyone, please, once again, Anya Babbitt.
Thanks for having us here tonight. Actually, I'm not Anya Babbitt. My name is Matt Ferris, and I am the co-founder and COO of Split. And if you are like me and most people, you would probably describe your daily commute as expensive, stressful, time-consuming, and probably just straight up ridiculous. So that's all about to change because Split is a social ride-sharing app that fosters new connections by allowing people with common travel plans to meet and move together, whether it's coworkers, friends, or even fellow event goers. So Split is alleviating the burden and demand on the transportation systems by filling empty seats in vehicles. Again, whether it's taxis, Ubers, Lyfts, or your personal vehicle if you're driving into the city. And we're also reducing the frustration and the anxiety that you as a person has during that commute by allowing you to schedule that ride in advance. You know when you're going somewhere and you know when you're coming back. So by putting in that location where you're starting, that location where you're ending, and the time at which you're leaving, put it in the system, anxiety over. Also, for the very first time, you get to choose who you ride with based on carefully screened individuals within your own social and professional networks. So by linking to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google+, you can choose that person. And it can be someone you either know, again, coworker, friend, or event goer, or it can be someone new. So say you need to network with a boss within your company, or say you want to connect with another Tigers fan coming to the game, or if you're single, maybe you want to meet the cute girl or guy down the hall. Regardless of which one it is, Split is making it cheaper and more social to move into, out of, and throughout the city. So download Split and spice up your otherwise boring commute.
Who's saying again, Mr. Ferris?
Matt.
Matt Ferris. Any questions for Matt? How do you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, again, the money, what's your revenue stream for this?
So we actually have several revenue streams. If it's direct to consumer, so two individuals sharing that taxi or Lyft, it's a 10% fee model, so we take 10% of each side of that split fare. However, we are also going to companies, employers, and getting them to sign up their entire employee base, creating a culture within their company, coworkers commuting into each other, and that's a per employee per month model.
So you've already worked out some deals with Uber and Lyft, so there's no conflict with their interest of on-demand capture versus a car.
Actually, if you think about it this way, Uber allowed transportation to the people they opened up a different market, and there's it's airport a week in advance. You put that into the system, you find somebody, and you know you're going to make that match. And that's the cool thing is by putting your ride into the system ahead of time, even with a 5 to 10 minute lead time, you've just increased your chances of finding a match by 85%, and you only need 5,000 people in the system. So a lot of other apps that have failed need 100,000 users in real time to make that match viable. So with 5,000 users putting it 5 minutes ahead of time, you've now got an 85% match success rate. However, the other thing that makes us different is we're doing dynamic routing, very similar to what Wise has, where if you're standing there, you see a car either coming down the road in New York, you're standing on Park Avenue, millions of taxis driving by, or if you're trying to get into the office and you know there's a vehicle on the way, then that person can pick you up in transit.
So the people in your system, they're a combination of drivers and people who need a ride?
Yeah, it can be. In place because it's less dense, Uber doesn't have as big of a presence. A lot of people come from outside the city into the city. For example, every single day, 50,000 people commute into Detroit, into downtown Detroit from all the various suburbs, and then back home at the end of the day. So even by getting 25% of those people onto this platform, you would reduce congestion by 40%. So also in New York, their personal vehicles aren't really the norm. It's more of taxis, Ubers, Lyfts. So that would be a straight up peer-to-peer process where there's a third person driving, being the Uber, Lyft, or taxi driver.
Do you also envision people within your system being both drivers and not the passenger, but also it's the goal of, okay, people like you want so people that want to hook up not only the passengers, but there are drivers who don't mind giving someone else a lift. They both have the same.
Validation that we've said they don't use that purely because they don't want to leave their car in an empty lot. So they have to drive their car there, then they leave the car, and then they go the rest of the day. They're far more comfortable leaving their vehicle at their house and having someone come and pick them up a block away from their house than taking their, as one of the gentlemen said, second most expensive commodity that they own and leaving it in an empty lot all day.
Now, Lyft and Uber have had concerns with liability for their drivers. With Split, is there now liability concern with both drivers and passengers? Since you mentioned the feature, you can basically block passengers you don't want to ride with?
On that aspect, blocking passengers you don't want to ride with, there's really no liability.
Well, I mean the liability concern.
Right.
I mean, Uber and Lyft have concerns about policing, essentially, drivers that
right.
drivers. Is there some sort of program that now has been installed with Split just to be a passenger?
there's no external program. I mean, when you come onto the system, we have reputation management within the system, so peer-to-peer reputation management, so you can decide, how to rate that person you've either ridden with in the past and see that person ahead of time and see what they've been rated as. Also, when they first log on, they are vetted by our system, so we make sure they have a real social networking profile, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, and we make sure that they're an active user. It's not just some dummy account. And expand it. So again, coming in for a Tigers game, perhaps, and fellow Tigers fan, more willing to share a ride with that person.
Yes.
Are you able to do like really fast updates? So let's say like your ride that you shared with somebody, they maybe at the last minute because of something at home, have to cancel. You've got a business meeting to be to, and you're waiting, and now it's 5 minutes past when you're going to meet.
That's actually a good question, and that's something that we've been looking into very seriously right now. It's like more on the converse where you get stuck at work. Say someone, you drive into work with someone, and for whatever reason their kid gets sick or there's an emergency or something, and now you're stuck without a ride home. And we're looking to create partnerships with either something like Zipcar or something in the office where the office would subsidize their ride home if that were to happen. So it's almost like an emergency bailout, if you will, so that you always have that option to get back home or to get in where you need to be, if, for example, something like that happens. And to prevent that, we have created gamification and incentives, monetary and virtual, so that individuals do not do that. So if you are driving a minute like that, it's going to happen one time, and then people are going to know about it, or you're going to be kicked off the system. Something will prevent you from doing that 2 or 3 or more times.
You already have users in your system, or is it in testing right now?
We're in beta testing currently. The app is downloadable, but right now we're doing beta testing, highly focused focus groups. We're working with the Detroit Lions as a focus group. We've also got a few other individuals, partners that we're working with, several of the partners that are part of Techstars. And then we will launch our pilot, our full launch in September in concurrent with Demo Day. And we've got talks going on with several of the partners to pilot the program initially.
Testing only in Southeast Michigan?
We actually, because out of New York, we've got testing occurring simultaneously both in New York and Detroit. We've got focus groups being operated in New York City as well as in Detroit specifically.
All right. Matt Ferris, everybody. And that's it. Everyone, please give all of our presenters a round of applause. Thanks once again, Techstars Mobility. Them a round of applause. And Tom just reminded me our next D-NewTech meetup is August 5th.
Yep. We're going to be we're going to be at Vision IT, which is down at Woodward, at the Woodward, and it's on the 2nd floor. But Dave Segura, he's the CEO there. He started that about 10 years ago now. They're like a national corporation globally. So come out there.
Wonderful. Look forward to seeing everyone on August 5. Thank you very much for inviting me, Tom, and everybody.
Good job, Andrew.
Have a great night. Thanks to Minsky also. Thank you.
Do you want to let them know about the demo day? What day was that? I don't know if you're open to the public. That's
we'll send you a link September 10th.
Okay, awesome, man. So you'll love to get an update of how these guys did.
Continue networking. Presenters. We'd love to hear more.
the panel. Is there anybody from like other VCs or anything?
Yeah, there's going to be 800 people there.